Shalom, balance, paradise, righteousness, or thank yourself for tuning in to the broadcast, north, east, west, and south. I have the pleasure of welcoming again a special guest, Curtis Cost, author, researcher, and all-round activist, we'll say.
Yeah,
Welcome back to the broadcast, sibling.
thank you.
Honors to have you back. We had to do a part two because
hmm
we didn't really touch on one of the prime subject matters, which is
hmm
affecting pretty much everybody across the plane currently, which is the mask issue
hmm
and the potential detrimental health effects of wearing such an object for such long periods of time, especially if you're having to work. So yeah, let's get into the pros and the cons, and let's give some of the listeners some tools which they can then potentially apply to their everyday life.
Sure. Fine. Yeah, I'm again Curtis Cost, and I'm the author of this book here. As you mentioned, vaccines are dangerous. I've been involved in researching vaccines and related health issues for about 30 years, and I'm continuing the fight. And right now, there's a lot of things going on around COVID-19, and among the issues is with the face mask, which is like a national, international phenomena where people have been duped into believing that these face masks will do something for them against a virus. And first and foremost, I want to say that uh, these face masks will not protect you from a virus. In fact, let me back up. I think I covered this last time. There is no COVID-19 virus out there. I mean, there's plenty of documentation challenging that. First and foremost, the fact that no one has ever, I'll put it as a question. I challenge the audience to find the name of the doctor or scientist or team of scientists who obtained a purified sample of this COVID-19 virus. You're not going to find it. It's not out there. And who managed to prove through the use of Koch's postulates that this virus actually causes anything. Nobody's ever done that. And I've talked to several PhDs on this. So I'll just throw that out there. I mean, people are in fear of something that's never been proven to exist or to cause anything. So with that backdrop, I know people have this fear, and that's why they wear the mask. But even if there was a COVID-19 virus out there, the face mask will do nothing for you. I mean, it's just not designed to protect against viruses, at least not the standard ones that people are using, the standard surgical mask and the N95, that type of stuff, and plus the ones who are putting anything on their face, a handkerchief or a sock, whatever. Those things don't protect against viruses. And the strongest proof of that is the fact that the manufacturers themselves, if you look at the box of the surgical mask that you purchase, on the side of the box or in package insert, it will say that their product will not protect against viruses. It will not protect against COVID-19. So if the manufacturers themselves say that the mask will not protect you, why is anyone even wearing these masks? I mean, it's ludicrous. It's like you go into auto dealership and the guy tells you, well, you can buy the car, but I'm not going to guarantee that it's going to work. I mean, or even worse, he says that it's not going to work. He guarantees it will not work. Would you buy it? No, it just makes no sense. But people are like turning off their logic and just falling into this emotional fear-mongering nonsense. Scientifically, the viruses are simply too small, and the holes in these various face masks are too large. I mean,
Curtis,
yeah,
before you continue that chain of thought,
yeah.
you are 100% correct. Now, the question is, that mainly relates to the lay person who is not involved in medical operations or have gone
hmm
through any kind of medical study. So if they hear something on the news and they say a mask is going to protect them, then they're going to believe what is said on the news. Now, let's take it to the medical field, the people who are actually in the field. Why aren't more of them saying, well, we know that viruses can't, if they're in the air, we're going to need a full suit basically with
Yeah.
breathing apparatus to stop us from inhaling anything like this. So why isn't there a huge uptake of people saying, well, something's going on potentially, but like this mass thing, we need to address this mass situation because it can cause more harm potentially, or, can you speak to that?
Sure. Well, you got to keep in mind that a lot of doctors, they work for hospitals and clinics and things, and whatever policy comes down from the top, they are going to follow. They're obligated to follow, and if they don't, they can lose their jobs. And so there's a fear factor that's there. And so even the ones that know, and most of them should know, they're not going to speak up. They're not going to say anything against it because, the careers are on the line. How many people are prepared to risk their careers? Now, having said that, there are doctors and scientists who are speaking up, and they're getting on YouTube and things like that, and denouncing these face masks as ludicrous. I was so upset over what's going on that I decided to create a website, and it's called facemask.uncovered.blogspot.com. So face mask with an S, uncovered.blogspot.com. And I pull together a lot of these doctors and scientists who do these interviews and say that the masks don't protect you. Even Dr. Fauci, the advisor to
Hmm.
Donald Trump,
Hmm.
in a 60 Minutes interview, he got on and said, nobody needs to wear a face mask. It's ludicrous. It's not going to protect you. Nobody, I mean, now he's done 180 because obviously the powers that be have gotten to him. Said, no, that's not the right script we want you to follow. So now he walks around, when he has a camera, a photo op, he'll put the mask on, but we've caught him several times not wearing the mask when he thought the cameras were off. And so, so the bottom line is there's a fear factor, and most people don't want to speak up. And you do have those doctors out there who are not researchers. I mean, they know their specialty, but they probably not taking the time to actually research the science behind face masks. And
Yes.
those two factors that I think that encompasses most of the doctors out there who are not revealing what should be revealed. You got a handful who are willing to put themselves on the line. Most aren't.
So outside of bodily fluid contact and blood, you can obviously catch a common cold through, like, coughing and spluttering and all that kind of stuff. And they're clearly saying that this COVID thing is, I mean, basically, the COVID-19 thing is the symptoms are cold-like symptoms.
Right. Cold flu. Yes.
So outside of a cold slash flu, what other virus or thing, or, well, virus
Mm.
can be caught, can be transmitted in the air in the same fashion as a cold?
Well, I mean, yes, a couple of things. One, I don't believe that viruses are the cause of disease, and I don't know if I covered that in your show last time,
You
but
certainly did.
yeah, I did. Yeah, so I'm the wrong person to ask about viruses causing anything. They're not alive. They don't move. They don't have an digestive system. They don't produce waste. They don't fit any of the criteria of life. So I often say when I give lectures that whenever somebody talks about a virus being the cause of anything, they are either lying or they don't know what they're talking about.
Mm.
But if you go along with the mythology of viruses being the cause of something, well, they say, yeah, transmission can occur with somebody coughing or sneezing on you. Now, first problem with that is how often does one person cough or sneeze into another person? I can't readily remember any time in my life other than when I'm holding a baby or something but people just don't do that. That's not like a daily occurrence, somebody sneezing or coughing in someone else's face. It's just not. I mean, I think you have a greater chance of being struck by lightning than somebody directly sneezing or coughing in your face, because just before a person sneezes or coughs, they know that it's coming on, and they have time, to turn their head,
Mm.
sneeze in their elbow, turn their head. So they've blown that whole mythology out of proportion. And then they talk about, they say the only way of transmission is coughing and sneezing and droplets. And the droplets are heavy, and if somebody does cough or sneeze, yeah, it'll just fall right to the ground pretty quickly. And so where is the risk? Why do they insist that people not only cover their mouths, which is where any droplets will come out, why do they insist on people covering their nose as well? I mean, only thing going in and out of your nose is air. So this is just like another example of, nonsense that's being put out there on every level. Every aspect of this COVID-19 is laughable when you do the research. I mean, it's ludicrous at every single level. No virus has been proven to exist.
Yeah.
Face masks, the manufacturers say won't protect against a virus. I mean, the social distancing, well, even if you believe that something can be transmitted through the air, standing 6 feet apart will not protect you because there's something called wind.
Exactly.
So you're standing on a line outside of a store, anything will drift. So none of this has been proven scientifically through controlled studies. I
Yes.
mean, where's the controlled studies that standing 6 feet apart makes any difference?
Curtis, I don't think the scientific community or the media even utilize that phraseology of controlled studies.
Right.
And I don't think they even think that's even necessary anymore. It's a case of we want to propagate this and we are going to do it. It's as simple as
That's exactly it. And can you hear me?
yes.
Yeah. I mean, this is basic science, and they're ignoring that, and they're operating the assumption that because their allies control most of the news media, the majority of people is never going to hear this information. And
Mm,
so uh, your audience and others who are willing to listen to the other side, they'll get this information and they'll have something to think about and draw conclusions about.
mhm.
The vast majority won't. And so let's say people like you and others, reach, 3%, 5% of the population. Well, that leaves about another 95% or so
Yeah.
who never hears the information and walking under the mythology of what they've heard on the 6 o'clock news and the general media.
Mm. Currently, as of yesterday, social gatherings within the UK um, are now banned within the UK over 6 people. So the UK now, well, England, let's be
Yeah.
crystal clear, not the whole of that, because Scotland was still under some form of lockdown. Bolton was locked down, Manchester, Leicester. They were talking about Birmingham, but now they've said the whole of England is now to be on lock as of Monday again.
Yeah.
It's it's interesting. It's very interesting. They've been propagating and been floating this second wave thing for the last month and a half.
Well,
Um,
longer than that, yeah, they've been predicting. Since when they predict second and third waves of a disease? Where did this come from? Yeah, I mean, they talk about the second wave of H1N1 or any other diseases that have been out there. And how do they have this information? Where is it coming from? Yeah, and where that number of 6, the magical number
mm,
6, same thing, the 666
mm.
is interesting. Six seems to be so important to them. Where's the study that says a gathering of more than 6 people is dangerous? No controlled studies.
None.
They're making this stuff up as they go along, and most people are just buying into it, especially those who just still have a high level of naivete when it comes to these issues, blindly accept what the government and the news media tells them. But I will say this: in Europe, we've had the largest demonstrations
Yes.
probably in the world, millions of people. I mean, we're not having that in the U.S. That hasn't happened so far in the U.S. I mean, we're lucky if we get a couple of thousand people, but it's a couple of thousand people in different locations
Mm.
taking place. But we got to work on getting our numbers up into the millions, like in Europe. So a lot of the European countries are waking up. But I will say this: it's like shocking that a country like England, which prides itself and has told us for so many years how they are so superior, they're modern, and they don't believe in mythologies and superstitions like the people in the dark continent. Now here they are embracing nothing less than a superstition, and they're going along with it. Where are the massive demonstrations in England? I mean, I know there've been some, but I don't know if it's anywhere close to what's happening in other parts of Europe, like in Germany.
There
And
have been, I'll tell you what, for the last, obviously there's been clearly a huge uptake in this Black Lives Matter nonsense in regards to the marches and stuff. There's been a huge uptake in that, but at the same time, that's got all of the press. There has been a plethora of marches in London, Birmingham, Leeds, Leicester, Liverpool, Manchester, all
oh,
the
okay.
major cities to say we're not having this mask thing. We're not doing the social distancing. We're not wearing masks. Last weekend, which is slightly off topic, they did another march about the children. Save the children
In what sense?
in regards to the child trafficking and
Oh,
all
okay.
of that.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
So I think with the lockdown, people, it's generally the people who are always looking at maybe questioning, but there are a lot more people who have got time on their hands and are stumbling across this information and thinking, well, wait a minute, this something's not adding up. I mean, I thought something was a bit strange when we've got daily death counts, we've got information which is totally inconsistent. They say wear a mask one day, on Friday they say don't wear a mask, and on Monday they say wear a mask. They say don't social distance, they say two social distance. There's no
What
consistency.
in England saying there's a certain day, Fridays, you don't need to wear a mask.
No, no, no. So for instance, on the Monday they'll say wear a mask, and then by Friday it's don't wear a mask.
Yeah, well, that's consistent with all the other nonsense that has no basis in science and testing and everything else. They're just making things up as they go along. It's ludicrous, absolutely ludicrous, and it's like stunning to me from a standpoint that those of us who are a little more conscious than a lot of people on certain issues, we know that there's a lot of people who are not awake and things, but here's the first time where we can actually get a sense for what the numbers look like. When I start seeing all these people wearing face masks, I'm like, come on, is that many people are that gullible? That
Yes.
many? I
Yes.
mean, you and I and others like us, the other researchers and parents and activists out there,
Hmm.
are very tiny minority. I mean, when we look at all the sea of mask wearers, I mean, it's it reached the level of a cult. But I'm seeing in variations more and more people taking off their masks. I think it has to do with demographics because some sections I hear mask wearing is still high or even increased. In other sections, you see more and more people just not wearing the mask. And maybe not all of them are not wearing the mask because of research, but just common sense. They take the mask off for a couple hours and they feel they're fine. They try for a whole day, they're fine. Looking people all around, walking around, they see every day with no mask on, they see they're fine. So I think part of it's common sense, and then you have those who actually do research, and that's what's motivating them. But it's a mixture now. But as I started to say from the beginning, at the height of all this, it was just shocking how many people were wearing those masks in places they didn't need to. I mean, walking outside with nobody around them. Even if you go by the standard script of like 6 feet separation, nobody around them, and they got the mask on the
Yeah.
outside. They're driving in the car, they're the only one in the car, and they're wearing a mask.
Yeah. And gloves, Curtis.
Yeah,
Don't forget the
yeah.
gloves.
And then there are those who want to give you a lecture of why you should also be wearing a mask. And these individuals haven't read one scientific paper on the subject. They know nothing about the counter arguments, but they want to argue with you. I've always been amazed by that. I mean, normally, I mean, a fairly intelligent person, if they don't know something, they'll sit back and ask questions.
Yes.
You got these militant mask wearers. They want to argue with you. They know nothing about the subject except what they've heard on the 6 o'clock news.
Luckily, I have not experienced any kind of conversations or um, discourses regarding masks. The only conversation I had once entering a super shopping place, the security challenged me and asked me where my mask was. I just looked at him in his face and smiled and carried on walking.
Yeah, yeah, good for you. I've challenged them several times in different places, even at Whole Foods. I told them, look, I have a condition, I can't wear a mask. I said, well, can you wear a shield? And I never put a shield on, but I figured, okay, well, that's a compromise.
Mm,
The shield is actually worse, much, much worse than a mask because because it's plastic,
yes,
you're immediately breathing back in 100% of what you breathed out.
the
So it
seal.
fogs up almost instantaneously. And so the only saving grace was I was able to lift the mask, the shield up enough that I could breathe normally,
Hmm.
and nobody bothered me. But yeah, I've challenged it numerous times. But we got to start um challenging things in groups.
Yes.
Going to one by yourself, they're not going to listen. You go in there, 1,500 people. Yeah, that's a different story. People know their rights and having
Mm,
signs. And I think a big part of such demonstrations like that would be to alert the others who are going into the store that there is a counter argument. That's a perfect opportunity to be handing out flyers
hmm.
about why these face masks don't work and why they're so dangerous. And so again, I recommend people try to, as much as possible, set times to go to, especially some of the chain stores that nationwide, and
Hmm.
from their location, start challenging it. Start handing out flyers, bring out the blowhorn. Say face masks don't work. This is stupid. I mean, you're
Mm,
violating our rights. Disabled people have a right not to be forced to wear a face mask, which is true. And
exactly.
they're telling people who have asthma they got to wear a mask no matter what, or a mother whose child is autistic and can't wear a mask because they'll be fidgeting too much with it. They say, to heck with you. So what? You got to wear it anyway. They're just violating the law, which, at least in the United States, which protect people with disabilities. It's called American Disabilities Act. And stores are supposed to make an accommodation that's equivalent to what all the other customers receive.
Hmm.
But they're not doing that. Most of them don't even know, and they don't care. And so I would encourage people to start challenging these things in groups at
Hmm.
the different stores, and
That,
yeah, writing letters to the management of the stores and the corporate office. And they start getting hit with enough letters, emails, faxes, and letters that talk about possible legal action. They're going to respond because these chain stores, they don't want to be hit with lawsuits. They don't be hit with fines for every
mhm.
store and every violation. In the U.S., I mean, I think the limit is like $75,000 for the first offense, where you deny a person access over a face mask, and the second offense is like $150,000.
Wow.
I don't know what it is in the UK, but people need to start following these complaints and letting the
Yeah.
stores know in advance. We are going to file a complaint against you to these agencies, and if you don't let us in and our constituents in, we're going to be filing these complaints, and these are the fines you'll be hit with. I'll give them something to think about.
Of
And
course,
yeah,
100%. So I take it within America, the stores are being a lot more vigilant in regards to challenging people who don't have masks.
yeah, it varies, but a lot of them really are, especially and the biggest problem is where you're talking about an appointment with a dentist that you've been working with for a long time, or your doctor at the doctor's office or a hospital. These are places that you have ongoing work in process, and you can't go to unless you put a mask on and put your own health at risk. That's illegal, and it needs to be challenged. And there are people starting these challenges. There are lawsuits being filed across the country, and needs to be more. This needs to be more aggressive because this has to stop.
Well,
I see pregnant women wearing face masks. Now it's utter madness for a
totally.
pregnant woman to have on a face mask, given how dangerous these masks are, and she's messing up her whole body chemistry, harming the child. And good God, I hate to imagine the brain defects and
Exactly.
other health
Lack of
problems.
oxygen.
Yes. And you got these images of newborn babies, and the parents have face masks on a newborn baby.
Oh
I'm
my
like,
God.
just how stupid can people be? It's just,
It's
oh,
you've got, as you mentioned, you've got the ADA. We over here we've got something which was formerly called the Disability Discrimination Act. It's now called the Equality Act. I will do some research to look into that. I'm not too sure
mm,
what their the fine process is, but I'm pretty sure we can follow a similar sort of process in regards
yes, that would be great.
to doing that. But touching on the fine situation, apparently, anyone caught without a mask within the UK can be issued £100 fine.
£100 about how much in the US dollars? Any idea?
US, I would say that's probably about 180,
Okay.
and it can go up to a maximum of £3,200 for any repeat offences. It's see when you mention fear, I think that's another thing that plays a factor into it. That okay, I might question it. I might think that, this is a bit silly, this is, but because everybody else is wearing it, and
Hmm.
because within society today, in the last, what, 10, 20 years or so, people have become less individuals and have become more sheeple. So monkey see, monkey do. Everyone's got a mask. I might be a bit dubious about this, but I'm going to follow everyone else and stop myself from potentially getting £100 fine.
Right. Um, you're right. I mean, and that's most people don't want to get into trouble, and they don't want to pay the money, or and, nobody wants to pay money for things like that. And
Mm,
people who are in more dire straits economically, that can be devastating if you have to pay those kind of fines. But the bottom line is that people need to start rallying together, forming groups, or joining the groups that are already out there, and mobilizing against this. I mean, this is tyranny,
yeah.
and this is stage one, to test to see if the public is gullible enough for the following stages, which includes the contact tracing,
Hmm.
mandatory testing, and of course, the ultimate goal is the vaccines.
Vaccination.
So this is like a test. And so if the people in England and the rest of the world fail the test, well, look forward to all those other things, the contact tracing, mandatory testing, and the deadly COVID-19 vaccine. So this is a test, and it's up to the people. Everybody has their limitations, their problems, the time
Hmm.
constraints. This is life and death,
It
and
is.
people just have to work it out to how they're going to get involved and let their voices be heard against this. Because the powers that be, I mean, they've been playing this COVID-19 scam for decades. I mean, we have the information now. For decades, they've been
Mm,
planning this, and they put their people in positions to enact these laws. And so these individuals they're committed. They're not going to go against the commitments they've made to those who put them in power.
of course.
Only way that's going to change it is the people going to have to say hell no,
Yeah.
and they can't put everybody in jail. So you say, no, I'm not going to pay the fine. So what are you going to do? Going to put a
Hmm.
million people in jail? I don't think they got a million jail cells over there. I could be wrong. And then what are they going to do if they manage to do that? What happens to society? Uh,
Exactly.
yeah, the key is waking people up. I mean, the battle, the real battle right now, is for the mind of the general public,
Hmm.
because whoever controls the mind of the general public controls how things are going to ultimately play out. So if you have the majority of people thinking that the masks are good and that the governor's doing the right thing, well, then they're going to win. The other side is going to win. If the majority of people wake up and start doing their own research and asking questions and using the common sense, well, then the forces of good are going to win, because they cannot impose this on a majority of people. I mean, it's always one minority against another minority. We have change of governments and
Mm,
change of political policies, and the majority of people always have the ultimate say, the ultimate power. So it's a battle for the minds and the psyche of the emotions of the majority of the general public. In fact, statistically, I understand it's not even, you don't even need the majority. You need a certain number of millions of people on the same side of an issue, and that's enough to tip the scales.
Isn't it like 30% or something like
Right.
that?
Some, I
Yeah.
forget what the number is. So you don't
Hmm.
even need a majority, but we need yeah, we need those kind of numbers,
Hmm.
and that will tilt the balances. So that's why I do these interviews and things and try to get information out. That's why many others all around the country in America and all around the world are also doing their part, doing these shows, putting out flyers, doing all kinds of things, demonstrations and legal action. And so we're
Yes.
all doing our part, and we need more of it to wake people up and to get people involved, because this is serious stuff. This is life and death. And the forces of evil have their agenda, and it's up to the average person to say, hell no. No, I'm not going to wear your stupid face mask.
Hmm.
No, I'm not going to submit to contact tracing. You cannot come in my home. No, I'm not going to take your stupid test. That's worthless. And no, I'm not going to take your vaccine. You want to inject that to somebody, inject it to your family and friends and in your neighborhood, but I'm not going to do it. If everybody says that, this thing will stop. And
Immediately.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Let me play righteous advocate before we wrap up.
fair enough.
Um, there is a section of the population who have been affected and have lost loved ones. You know, brothers, sisters, uncles, aunties, whoever it may be, and they have been informed by, pardon self, by the medical, excuse me, establishment that the reason for their loved one transitioning is due to COVID-19. So, in their mind, this is real to them. This isn't a conspiracy. There's no tinfoil hats. There's no this. There's no that. They've got someone and they've passed away now. They're no longer with them. And they've
Mhm.
been told medically that the reason that they're no longer here is because of COVID. You know,
Mhm.
what would you say to that, Curtis?
Yeah, well, I would say that a close analysis it would be necessary because statistically, the majority of people who've died are elderly people with an average age, I believe, is like 78 years old, and had other conditions, other life-threatening health conditions, cancer, pneumonia, and so these the majority of them are individuals who were most likely going to die anyway. I mean, we got cases of family members coming forth and saying, no, my father, uncle, whatever, did not die of COVID. He had terminal cancer, was going to die in a couple of weeks anyway, and nothing to do with COVID. A lot of people are outraged at this labeling of COVID. On top of that, just recently, the Centers for Disease Control here in the US, they've come out and admitted that they lied with regards to the death count.
Their death counts.
Yes, they now say that instead of at the time of this came out, instead of 160 some thousand deaths due to COVID, they say now it's only like 6% of that number. So it's only about 9,000. Now that's
Wow.
a huge drop to go from
Yeah.
160 down to 9,000. In fact, hold on for a second. Oh yeah, I even put together a chart on that. I don't know how well it show up on your camera,
There we go.
but
Yeah.
yeah. Now on the left is well, my right, I guess, the long one.
Yes.
That is what the original numbers were. The revised number.
That is ridiculous.
Yeah, yep,
Well,
yep.
wait a minute. Now let's
And
look
this
at.
is right on their website. You go around their website, and you'll see where they say the actual number now is 6%. You can see
So
the
how?
website.
So Curtis, yeah, we see
Yeah.
that. And what I'll
Okay.
do is, if you can send me that link, I'll put that in the description below as well.
Sure.
So, how many employees at the Center of Disease Control in Atlanta? How many employees were fired because of this, or went on disciplinary for gross misconduct, derelict of
uh,
duty?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I haven't actually taken time to research the number, but I'm inclined to believe zero,
Yeah.
and that many of those actually probably got promotions, which is what they typically do. Those guys women are considered heroes
Mm,
because the false information that was put out there Well, that put a lot of money into in certain pockets. I mean, the vaccine industry and the testing industry, and there's a handful of corporations that have made billions of dollars because most
Yes.
people can't go to department stores and stuff to shop, so they'll be ordering
Yes.
online and things. A lot of money has been made, and so a lot of these individuals, I'm sure, can be rewarded handsomely if they haven't been already, and they'll probably end up in high power positions in corporate America and the pharmaceutical industry and things. So they'll be taken good care of
Hmm.
as opposed to being fired. That's my guess. I'm not saying I've researched that particularly for this, but that would be my guess based on what I've seen over the years.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, they lied, exaggerated. Here's another one I want to show you. I think you'll find interesting. I compared the revised number of deaths, which is 9,000 something,
Hmm.
to the number of annual deaths from tobacco.
Wow.
The long one, that's how many people die roughly
Yeah.
from cigarettes every year in
Hmm.
America alone.
Yeah.
The right is the number of deaths from COVID based on the revised number from the CDC. And again, there's the reference right there. Now, how come there's no emergency over tobacco? I know.
What?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
like it when somebody laughs because that tells me they understand the absurdity of it.
You know it. Where
Yeah,
is the outcry for cancer, prostate cancer, for automobile accidents, for trips and falls?
yeah. It's laughable. There's no demands out there from any politician to ban cigarettes and shut down tobacco industry, even though 500,000. But they shut down the entire American economy,
Hmm.
send people in a panic, do all kinds of crazy stuff. Over 9,000 deaths, and yeah. Oh, yeah. So that's good enough right now. It's stunning, and it's stunning. Most people are falling for this nonsense. But I just want to say a few other things before I forget. Before we wrap up,
Yeah.
with regards to some of the specific dangers of the face mask.
Hmm.
Um, Face mask. I'm sure some of the audience may already know this, but just in case, face mask causes a person to breathe back in more of their own carbon dioxide. Now, carbon dioxide is a poison. And so you're basically poisoning yourself because your body wants to breathe out the carbon dioxide, and then you're forcing a lot of it to come right back in. And on the show, The High Wire, Del Bigtree did a demonstration in which he used his son, and he had his son put on a face mask, and he had a meter that measures the levels of carbon dioxide. And I think the safe range is like 1,000 or 2,000 units of whatever the units are. And he put the device under the mask
Hmm.
so that it could measure the amount of carbon dioxide that's actually being forced back in. And the thing went 1,000, 2,000, 5,000,
Wow.
6, 7, 8, 10,000, and it couldn't go any higher. Now, 10,000 is
What?
way over the limit. Yeah, the video is right on my website, facemaskuncovered.blogspot.com. That video by Del Bigtree, he said that single video has been deleted more times than any other video he's ever done. So, you know what? Because you can't argue with that.
Of
Anybody can
course.
get a meter
Yeah.
and stick it under their mask, and then you'll
Yeah.
see the readings. And all you got
Hmm.
to do is know what the safe range is and what the danger range is. And so that's a very toxic environment. Also, a person is taking in far less oxygen
Hmm.
when they're breathing in the mask. So now you got two dynamics going on. You got too much carbon dioxide being breathed back in, and you denying the person up to like 25% of the normal oxygen intake. That's messing up a person's entire body chemistry. And the lack of oxygen causes something called hypoxia. And hypoxia can actually cause cancer because cancer grows best in a low oxygen environment. That's why oxygen is often used as a treatment to reverse cancer. So you have people right now seeding themselves for cancer. Dr. Russell Baylor went into great details in an article he wrote about this link between these face masks and the potential for developing cancer, or if a person has cancer, causing it to grow faster and more out of control. So
So
yeah,
in essence, that process is feeding the cancer cell.
yes, that's the bottom line. And on top of that, these face masks are linked, and it's in the literature, it's been out there for years, to increase respiratory problems among healthcare workers. Headaches, yes, you find an increasing number of people are talking about they're getting headaches. The face mask causes that. Respiratory problems, all kinds of respiratory problems, including lung collapse. You have people fainting because of these masks. They're fainting while driving, literally, and people get into car accidents. You have people fainting as a result of jogging or bike riding or other activity with the face mask on. And
But that's
we still have,
insanity in itself.
I know. See nothing, and we have cases of people who've actually dropped dead while exercising and running with the face mask on, see nothing but
Mm,
collapsed lungs. Now, the scary one among the scary things is not that these things are happening, is that we're probably not getting the full story. I mean, we know of cases that make it through the media, social media, or whatever, but the true numbers of people who have a car accident because they fainted at the wheel with the face mask on, that's not something that's being reported on a daily basis on the local news. So we don't really know the full scope of danger. We don't really know how many people have collapsed
yeah.
because of the face mask. I mean, we know of cases. We know that
Hmm.
these can cause that. So, but the full number, if it's not on the 6 o'clock news or your local newspaper, most people would not hear about it. So,
Yes.
yeah. So these masks are dangerous on a lot of levels, and it's complete insanity to be putting this on the face of a pregnant woman and on babies and stuff. I mean, it's just it's bad.
It,
The whole body chemistry is altered. Your body becomes far more acidic because of
mhm.
all the extra intake of the carbon dioxide. It's a bad situation. And these masks were. Oh, I should also add that these masks were never designed to be used the way they're being used. The surgical masks were meant to be used in a sterile environment. That's in a hospital setting where they have special air filters
Yes,
and only doing surgery.
of
And it was
course.
never designed to stop the transmission of a virus, but rather prevent the doctors from coughing or sneezing.
Contaminating
Right.
the
Right,
patient.
right. That now, by using it outside the way people are using it, all the germs and bacteria and everything else that's in the open air, it's collecting inside the mask, and you're breathing that stuff in. On top of that, when you wear a mask, you're creating a warm, moist, dark environment. That is the ideal breeding ground for germs. Just like people get foot fungus, that's because when you put a shoe on, you're creating a warm, moist, dark environment. So bacteria, fungus, and things grow. The same thing is happening when we have a face mask on. It's like an orgy for bacteria and germs. So they're just, multiplying left and
Yeah,
right, and you're breathing all that stuff in. So the bacteria you're breathing out, normally, that's collecting
yeah.
and multiplying plus all the stuff in the open air. And then people wearing these things for 8 hours or more a day. That's not supposed to be happen that way either, because even in a hospital setting, they're supposed to change the mask every 20 to 30 minutes. People are wearing the
Exactly.
same one all day, and to save
And the
money, they
next
wear the
day.
next day. And who knows at what point they said, well, maybe now's the time to change it. Uh, yeah, I know. It's madness. And so, yeah, these face masks are going to make a lot of people very sick. And I shudder to think what's going to happen over the next 6 months to a year, because all this is accumulating, messing up the body chemistry of individuals. And nobody knows what the long-term effect is going to be, because this is not how face masks were supposed to be used. And there's no, to my knowledge, no studies people wearing a face mask 7, 8 hours a day, 7 days a week. I mean, so it's ludicrous. And then, it's amazing. People are doing this and supposedly out of fear. But when you think about it, they they really don't even believe that there is a deadly virus out there. Now, I know that seems like a contradiction in terms, but when people are outside at a restaurant, wherever, and they lift the mask up to eat or drink something, what, they think the virus is not going to be there? Or it's going to take a pause while you're drinking or eating? You know, or why you take. I've seen people pull up the mask to smoke a cigarette.
Cigarette.
I'm like, so the virus is saying, oh no, he's smoking right. Let's give him some
Let's
time.
give
Let's
him a
just cut him a
break.
break.
Hold up.
Yeah,
Time
give him a
out.
break.
Time out.
Yeah, it's ludicrous. And then after putting themselves through all of that throughout the day, supposedly because they're so afraid of the virus, when they get home, what is the first thing they do? They take off the mask. Like the air inside their apartment or home is not the same air that's on the outside.
Well,
I mean,
didn't one of the governors or police down in Texas say to residents that everyone should be wearing masks, and even when you go home, you should be wearing a mask
yeah,
indoors?
yeah, they're saying that now. They probably heard me or others like me pointing that out. That makes no sense to be taking off when you go home. But then you're going to be wearing a face mask 24 hours a day when you go to bed, when you're in the shower. It's ludicrous. Little common sense exposes this. The fact that we don't have a much higher death toll, I mean, in the
Yeah.
tens of millions, proves that there's no virus up there because a face mask, it's like putting up a chain link fence to stop
Yes.
a mosquito. It
Yes.
gets right through. So the
Excellent analogy.
dead, yeah, they aren't dead because that proves there's no virus out there. I mean, uh, but people operate in emotion. I've even seen situations, and I remember one in particular happened to me. I left an appointment. I was outside the building. There's these benches, and I sat down. All the benches were full, but there was one open space. So I sat down, and there's this woman there. She did not have a face mask on. But as soon as I sat down, she put a face mask on. Now I'm trying to figure out that logic. So you're not worrying about the viruses in the air, supposedly. Somehow you decided that I'm the one that's a threat to you. I'm like,
Curtis, come on, look at the media. The last month and a half, what have they been
yeah.
telling everybody?
Mm-hmm.
Black people are dying the most of COVID, along
Mm-hmm.
with Hispanics, I guess, in America. In England, it's Asians and blacks, right? So then what do all the people say? They see someone black or Asian, and it's like you are the carrier, you're the plague, basically.
Well, I agree that that's a definite part of it, but I can tell you, I have friends who are rich, white, blonde hair, blue eyes, living very affluent neighborhoods, and when they walk down the street without a mask on, they're treated just like a black person invading their neighborhood.
Yep, yep.
It's like when I hear these, I say, I can't. But you're rich, you're white, you're blonde, you're beautiful. How? But then she told me that one woman told me, yeah, I felt like a black person would feel. I mean, now I understand.
I
So
got a glimpse into it. Yeah. Okay, I can understand. Yeah,
yeah. So you
yeah.
got the racial angle, definitely that's going to be there.
Hmm.
But it's really more about masked versus unmasked. If you got a
Yes.
mask on, you're part of the cult. If you don't have a mask on, you're not part of the cult. So we need to shame you, embarrass you, and give you dirty looks, and curse at you, yell at you, even hit you in some cases. The madness is absolutely it's stunning. It reminds me a little bit of the popular movie series The Purge.
I was just about to say the same thing, Curtis.
Yeah, yeah. Well, everybody's it goes mad for one night, and government sanction, not only sanction, government encourage, and they do all these crazy things, and that's what we see right now. I mean, it's just, and on a societal level, even on a global level, it's very troubling, very troubling. But there
Very.
are this. I will say this to keep things positive. Our numbers are growing in leaps and bounds.
Mm,
There was
agreed.
one meeting of UN officials, and they were talking about the rapid growth of the informed choice vaccine movement. We're growing at
Yes.
like 500% rate. I don't know if what time period, weekly, monthly, whatever, but we're growing fast.
Hmm.
And the same thing on this COVID thing. It's growing fast. And it's also important to keep in mind that the truth is on our side. The
Mm.
other side, they've created the religion of the face mask or the COVID religion. That's what it is, a cult. They don't have facts. The scientific facts don't back up. Now, whatever scientific facts they put out are easily refuted in light of other information that's also in the scientific literature. So the truth is on our side, and our really only real task is to get more people to look at the serious objective facts that
Hmm.
paint a very different picture of what's going on. So the truth is on our side. We are the majority. There are forces of good out there working on waking people up. And we need to wake up, especially in the Black community, because we're still far behind on this information. The white community, they're organized, they
Yep.
got nonprofit groups,
Hmm.
they got money, they got intelligent people working on different projects, they have committees. We got to step up. Right now, today, we still don't have one Black vaccine organization anywhere in the world, I don't think. I'm not aware of any Black anti-vaccine. Well, I'll
Nope.
take that back. I do know of one that's in the early stages, Urban Global Health Alliance. That one is trying to do that.
Okay.
But beyond that, we don't. And where are the Blacks protesting against the lockdown, or protesting against the contact tracing, or protesting against the testing or the vaccine?
They
Um,
don't see how that affects them or the bigger picture. It's so
yeah,
because they're incrementally dropping these things and they're bombarding us with all these bits in the media and stuff. No
right.
one's really seeing the bigger picture and how everything lines up to the greater agenda.
Exactly. And I'm really concerned about the election coming up here in the US because, in my view, it's the most critical
Mm,
election probably in American history.
hmm.
On one side, you have a group that's fully in favor of the lockdown, have imposed the greatest lockdown of any states in the country, the ones that, well, let's just say, the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not taking sides, but this is an objective fact.
Hmm.
You have the highest death count and case counts in the states controlled by the Democrats. We have a Democratic governor imposing this more strict lockdowns.
Or should
We
we
have a
say democrats?
yeah. Well, I hear where you come from. I just want to, I hear what you're saying.
Yes.
And we have a person on the Democratic side, Biden, who's publicly said he wants to mandate face masks all across the country. Now, I want to know who is his science advisor. I mean, he needs to fire that person because I was getting the wrong information. And I think it's safe to say that the agenda that uh, these Democratic governors and the Democratic Party have been following, Biden is not going to depart, I don't think, drastically from that.
No.
So we're going to see a lot more of what we've already been experiencing over the past several months.
Worse. If he
Yeah,
comes to power,
I know.
it's gonna be hell. I mean, if America's the land of the free and the home of the brave, yeah.
That's what we're
Currently,
taught. Yeah, yeah,
exactly. That's what we're taught.
yeah.
Currently, there's some stuff going on there, but as it stands, it's gonna be World War IV in America if that being comes to power. I mean, he's the one who came out with that crime bill, didn't he, in the 90s?
Right, right. And he gave that very racist
Yes.
speech to the Senate. I mean, basically labeling, it was clear he was talking about African Americans,
Mm,
Black people in general, calling us thieves and thugs, and
yeah.
how we need to be thrown in jail to protect his wife and kids.
Yes.
Now, I doubt that he lives anywhere near any Black ghetto. So his wife and kids are tucked away in the suburbs, but he used them to try to
Yes.
make it personal. I'm afraid for my wife and my
Mm,
daughter, whatever they're. And then he had the gall to also talk about how, well, I don't care if why they're doing what they do is because they're poor. I don't
yes.
care that, like, okay, you say you know what the problem is,
Of
and
course.
you don't care about it. You just want
Mm,
to throw them in jail, and that's what he said. And that's who he is. And now that he's running for president, he has the nerve to actually say, if you don't vote for me, you're not Black. I'm like, what? Since when does a person's identity, racial, ethnic identity depends on voting for you?
mm,
The same guy who's fondling little girls on
thank you.
camera, in front of an audience, a crowd of
So,
people,
so
in front of
Curtis, so Curtis, can we just like understand why on earth he's not locked up underneath the jail for, as you say, publicly fondling and abusing young children?
very good question. And what can I tell you? I mean, you got forces out there that actually like a Joe Biden. For one, he's gonna be very easy to control. Can you imagine what they might have on this guy behind closed doors? What he
Yeah.
does to
Mm,
children?
Hmm.
what video tapes that they have of him.
Very true.
And so he'd be perfect to, for one, to blackmail if they need to, or whitemail, however you want to call it.
White
On
male.
top of that, you know, the guy is like so senile, it's almost like a crime that they're running him for president. I mean, this guy, I saw him on camera where he has his wife and sister on either side of him, and he got the two of them confused. So this is my sister over here. I said, no, that's your wife. I'm like, oh yeah, they switched up on me. Like, come on.
I missed that one, Curtis. I missed
Go
that.
go to YouTube and look up, I forget the exact title, but something like blunders of
Joe
Joe
Biden.
Biden. It's a whole collection of, and it's like beyond belief. I mean, everybody can make a little slip up, but these are, I mean, he forgets who he's running against, and you know, it was so bad that I remember somebody made a joke about they can imagine what the briefing person has to go through every time just before Biden goes on camera. They say, now you got to remember, your name is Joe Biden, you're running for the president of the United States. Your opponent is Donald Trump. You were born here. This is a picture of your wife. This is a picture of your sister.
Curtis, they probably got something in his ear, man, and they're just talking him through it.
Yeah, that's. I mean, it's just I say everybody makes some minor error. This guy, these are errors, and you're like, the things he's forgetting is the equivalent to the average person forgetting their birth date. I mean, come on. He arrives and giving a lecture in a state, and he forgets what state he's in, and you know he's in Minnesota. Said, "This is the great state of Indiana." I'm like,
Yeah, that's clearly presidential material right there,
yeah,
Curtis.
yeah. But and in a sense, it really is, because that means he's much easier to control.
Yes.
You know, he's senile. He's not going to be able to decide anything, so he's going to do what he's told.
Yeah.
So you can easily blackmail him with all probably the videotape they might have of him. I'm not saying such tapes exist, but I'm just imagining,
Hypothesize him.
right, what if he's doing this in public with the parents, they're on camera with these little kids. I don't even want to imagine what he's doing behind closed door. And if there is things that were going on behind closed doors, who knows what videotapes there might be or whatever. That's just hypothetical, but it makes you wonder.
It does.
And because why else would this guy be the best choice for president when we got him on camera?
Yeah.
I mean, this is not like somebody saying something that happened to them. We got him on camera multiple times, fondling little 6-7-year-old girls and everything.
It would be a little different if it was just once, maybe twice, but isn't it like 4 or 5 times?
I think I saw one just the other day. It was like 6 different incidents of him, you know, kissing little kids in the mouth, groping their breasts and all kinds. I mean, in public, like the guy can't even control himself.
It's sick. It's absolutely sick.
Yeah, but he's going to be easy to control because they could always raise that issue if he's president doesn't want to do something they told him. And the fact that you see now, I mean, Camilla is going to be one really running the country, or whatever his handlers are, they're going to be running the country, and he'll just be an occasional mouthpiece.
Yeah.
They'll probably, to make it simple, just stick something in his ear and say, okay, now the answer to that question is, your name is Joe Biden. Yeah.
Most definitely. Curtis, it's been excellent.
Yeah,
Before you go, let me ask you this. Who are you, but don't tell me your name?
That's an interesting question. Well, I'm a researcher, writer, activist of many years, trying to inform people of critical information that could impact their health on vaccines and a range of other issues.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Have you had fun?
I had fun. This has been great. Oh, make sure you include my website. Anybody wants to order a copy of my book, don't go to Amazon, because I'm being censored on Amazon for whatever strange reason. And whoever's selling my book, which I'm going to be suing, they're charging exorbitant prices. But if you go to my website, vaccinesaredangerous.com, that's vaccinesaredangerous.com, or you can look under vaccinesaredangerous.blogspot.com, and you could order my book. There's a lot of information on my website as well, videos, especially selected in articles. And anyone who orders a copy of my book directly from my website, I do autograph them and date them, and I encourage people. I had a customer yesterday bought a bunch of copies of my book. It's inexpensive. It's only like $15. Get a copy or two to share with family and friends. And you keep
Hmm.
your copy to read. It's not going to kill you, and you'll be helping. And the information needs to spread, and so you give it to one or two people, family members, your church leaders, things like that. It'll help the information to flow because nobody who reads my book walks away thinking the vaccines are safe. I mean, it
Hmm.
opens the eyes because the language is very simple, but I'm very thorough and it's filled with references. So, and for face mask, go to my face mask blog. It's called Face Mask Uncovered. So face, F-A-C-E, mask with an S, uncovered.blogspot.com. And you get a lot of the scientific medical information on why these masks are ineffective and very dangerous.
Excellent. And as I said, I will include all links below. It has
Hey,
been excellent. Thank you very much
my
again,
pleasure.
Curtis.
Thank you.
You're most
Okay.
welcome, sir. You're most